Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of David and Goliath podcast. It's me, Francisco. Monty Python released a film in 1975 called Monty Python and the Holy Grail. The Monty Python characters must be about the same age as my father would have been, around 80 years old. So, in 1975, they would have been around 35 years old. And it's around this age that questions like, what are we doing here? Where did I come from? Where I'm going? Start to appear. At least it was at 36 years old that I started, or rather returned, to ask myself these same questions. You don't know it, but I'm a bit lazy. Yes, I'm not perfect. If I have to take a shortcut, I will. But I think everyone would, if they could. Yes, it might be an excuse to justify my laziness. Since I admitted that I'm lazy, I went online to see what it said about this movie, although watched it a few years ago. Netflix has the best summary of the film, which says the following. The comedy clan tells the story of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table on their quest for the Holy Grail, Monty Python style. In short terms, the Holy Grail is a magical vessel where Christ's blood was collected in a chalice during the crucifixion and which could give new vigor to the people and life. In the tale of King Arthur, the search for the Holy Grail could have the ability to restore peace to his kingdom. Something external that could bring about the desired peace. We spend a lot of our lives searching for peace. Something that gives us peace and clarity so that when we can live our lives to the fullest. We spend time chasing after something that supposedly can bring us the joy and happiness we desire. The legend of the Holy Grail perfectly exemplifies what I just said. And how wrong we are. How wrong I've been for the 46 years of my life. In today's episode, I will tell you a story of a 17-year-old Brazilian girl who understood the true meaning of success in life. To reach this conclusion, she had to go through a very painful process that she has not yet finished. It seems like this. We have to kill ourselves to reach the treasure. In this girl's case, she literally had to kill herself to discover that true happiness lies in serving others, not being served, and it's the little things that bring beauty to our journey on this earth, not the grand moments, and finally, feeling grateful for being here. This last part may be difficult to understand in case of Isabel, our heroine today. Isabel Veloso, her name, is a 70-year-old Brazilian and a beautiful girl. Unfortunately, she will only live for another 4 months, according to the doctors, because she has an incurable cancerous tumor. But even so, let's make the most of these 4 months of her life to learn from her what it means to live with purpose. We have a lot to learn from her. It's her that I'm going to talk to you about today. This is the David and Goliath podcast, and I will tell you real stories from normal people who had great mighty wars and defeated their giants. Hodgkin's lymphoma. Just hearing that sends shivers down your spine. Just the name lymphoma sounds ghastly, and Hodgkin's only brings to mind the movie Silence of the Lambs, the psychopath who was locked up craving blood and death. It seems that when you say this name, nothing good goes with it. Once again, to prove my laziness, I went search for what this bug is. I found it on the website of a private Portuguese hospital. Hodgkin's lymphoma is a type of hematologic cancer. Lymphoma is a generic term to classify cancers that develop in lymphocytes and consequently in organs that lymphatic system. The disease resembles cancer in that the mechanism of its formation is equivalent. The abnormal lymphocytes do not fulfill their function of protecting against infections and other diseases. Hodgkin's lymphoma is a disease that more commonly appears in young adults with enlarged lymph nodes in the neck, chest, or other locations. In the case of Isabel, a huge tumor appeared in the chest area. I said it was a crap, and it really is. But before getting into this, let's talk about who Isabel Veloso is. Isabel Veloso is 70 years old, Brazilian, as I mentioned before, born in the state of Paraná, Brazil. She is blonde, dating a guy named Lucas Barbosa, who she married on April 13 of this year, fulfilling the dream of the young couple. They met at a gym. Isabel was doing an exercise in which she couldn't lift the weight. Lucas noticed and approached her, asking if she needed help. She said yes, and Lucas helped her. Isabel recounts that she immediately felt a strong interest in Lucas. She says that she moved on to other exercise and this time pretend to have the same problem as in the first one, just so he would come over to help her. Isabel always went to the gym with one of her sisters, and Lucas went with his friends. Gradually, they developed a friendship. Both had come from love relationships where they were very hurt. However, Lucas was determined to follow his heart. He invited her to lunch, which she refused. Isabel said it was to play hard to get with him. However, he didn't give up, and a week later, Isabella's no, Lucas invited her to dinner. They ate pizza made by him, and then they shared their first kiss. Isabel said she turned to him and said, "This relationship is going to end in a marriage. So if you want to date, you already know we are going to have to get married." Lucas agreed, and that's how their relationship began. At this point, Isabella was supposedly already cancer-free from the first cancer. When Isabel was about 13 years old, she was admitted with shortness of breath and vomiting. It was found that her lungs were filled with fluid. About 3.5 liters of fluid were removed in this first drainage. She was seen by 5 doctors, none of whom could accurately diagnose her. One said it was just a slight nausea, that tea would cure it. Others said it was gastritis, and others said it was nothing special, that no tests were needed because those were for inexperienced doctors. Our heroine always knew something wasn't right in her body. She mentioned in one of the podcasts she went to, in that when she passed her hand over her chest, she felt it raised, prominent, as if there was a hump in the middle of it. The tumor was about 17 centimeters wide, 17 centimeters long, and 17 centimeters high. It was so large that it literally pushed her heart to the right side of her chest. If you go to Isabel's Instagram in stories, you'll notice the size of the cancer. It was also because of this that the fluid built up in her lung. The process of removing fluid from the lung is painful. Not that I have done it, no, but if you search online for how the procedure is done, I'm absolutely sure you can imagine the pain Isabel felt. A needle is inserted into the back until it reaches the pleura. The pleura is a membrane similar to a sac that surrounds the lung. Yes, I went to Wikipedia to see the definition of pleura. Once it reaches there, a drain is inserted and the process of removing the fluid inside the lung begins. It's a slow process so that the lung doesn't collapse. Do you know how many liters were drained from Isabella's lung? 9.5 liters. Fluid was constantly produced due to the presence of the tumor, which was increasing around the lung. Before getting the official result, Isabella had a chest X-ray. The woman who did the X-ray looked horrified at Isabella and asked her if she had lung problems. She replied, no. She spent a long time in the hospital, apparently too long, until the biopsy result appeared. It took a long time because the appearance of the cells showed that it was not lymphoma, and furthermore, it was an unclassified scale. Because of this, complementarity exams to the tumor had to be performed outside the hospital. She started chemotherapy for 3 days. Isabel spent her time vomiting. During that therapy, Isabel fell asleep and found herself in a very dark tunnel. As dark as if she were in a forest in a moonless night. Isabella recalls that she never felt such a profound peace before. So profound, she felt like stopping breathing, and I think she did stop breathing. Then she began to hear 2 voices, one at the end of the tunnel, telling her to close her eyes, and another one saying the opposite, open your eyes. The latter one became increasingly audible, causing her to open them. And that's what she did. She suddenly opened her eyes, and then she vomited again. The chemotherapy treatment wasn't working, so she moved on to another type of treatment called immunotherapy. Once again, I went online to see what this treatment consisted of. It's a treatment that uses the patient's immune system to help shrink the tumor. Tumor cells have the ability to use disguised forms. Immunotherapy can reverse this camouflage process and make the immune system capable to fighting cancer cells. It is as if it removes the brakes from the person's immune system, making the tumor cells more easily recognized and eliminated. It worked in Isabel's case. The tumor was shrinking. Then she underwent an autologous bone marrow transplant. It's another very painful process for the patients. Not as much as draining fluid from the lungs, but it also causes immense pain. I found from the internet how an autologous bone marrow transplant is done from a Brazilian article, the link to which is in the description. We save a quantity of stem cells from the patient's bone marrow, subject them to high doses of chemotherapy, and then reintroduce these cells into their body, explains the hematologist in a very didactic way. It begins with preparing the patient with medications to increase the quantity of circulating stem cells in the blood. When the blood tests show a sufficient amount, the person is connected to a machine that filters blood, separating the stem cells from the rest and returning the blood to the body without these components, in a process called apheresis. The stem cells are then stored in a bag and frozen at a very low temperature. Only after this process does the patient receive a chemotherapy in extremely high doses. Depending on the disease, the patient's conditions and the treatment protocol used, doctors may use radiation therapy along the chemotherapy. It's an attempt to rid the body of the tumor cells. The problem is that the dose is so high that it also affects the bone marrow. Without the bone marrow functioning, the body stops producing platelets, responsible for blood clotting, red blood cells, responsible for oxygen transport, and white blood cells, the body's defense cells. This can lead to serious complications for the patients, such as decreased immunity, anemia, and higher risk of bleeding. After this intense treatment, the patient receives back the stored stem cells. Injected into the bloodstream, they simulate the recovery of the marrow, which can start functioning again within 20 days. This period of marrow recovery requires isolation of the patient to prevent them from getting an infection, as their immune system is extremely fragile, says the doctor. Isabel suffered a lot from this treatment. She suffered so much that she lost feeling in her legs and her right arm. She couldn't walk or move her arm. Lucas, her current husband, heard his wife scream in so much pain. She lost her head, lost a lot of health too. But in May 23, Isabel beat cancer-free. Apparently, it seems that all the suffering and the pain were worth it. Until last year, she found a lump in her neck. She already knew. Medical tests confirmed the cancer had returned. She had already told her family and Lucas that if the cancer returned, she didn't want to be treated. She had many injuries due to the treatments she underwent the first time. She didn't want more. She met with her doctor, Dr. Melina Branco, who said that the treatments wouldn't make the cancer disappear, but would keep it stable. Until when? It's not known. Possibly another 6 months of life, but it's an assumption. She fulfilled what she had told her family. No more treatments, no more pain. Now she leaves everything in God's hands. Isabella now wants to make the most of these remaining 6 months of life. She already married to Lucas, but she has plans to go skydiving, to travel outside of Brazil, maybe to Maldives, because it's something Lucas wants to do. She wants to enjoy life to the fullest with her recent husband, overcoming her worst phase, terminal cancer patients. But even with this darn disease, even knowing she will die within months, she says her mission is to heal and not to be healed. She wants to be a beacon for others. So, what does it mean to be a beacon for others? Even with the terminal illness, she doesn't want to stop smiling. Yes, she also cries because living under this condition isn't easy. One must accept the harsh reality and not run away from it. That takes courage. And you know, courage is the word we hear most in this podcast. She wants to be an example of gratitude to others for the miracle of being alive. Of course, there are many things she won't do or fulfill. She would like to be a mother, but apparently, you know. But she said cancer was the best thing she ever had in her life. Steve Jobs said in his speech that we should live life as if we were living our last day. That's what Isabel is doing. She's turning her pain into something that makes her a more mature human being, more true to herself. She wants to live in today, not in the past, not in tomorrow. To live the little things that life offers us and make us grandiose. No, it's not just talk, because it's not. It's so nice to wake up in early morning and see the sun rise. Believe me, it is. When she was a kid, Isabella was a very anxious person, always afraid of everything and everyone, always thinking about tomorrow and never about today. She says that most likely that anxiety caused her disease. If you could see the sparkle in her eyes when she said she wanted to be the cure for others. Of course, she wants to be cured too, but Isabel affirms that we are here to heal, to serve. I want to recall to you what Jesus said. You know that those who are considered rulers of the nations lord it over them, and their great ones exercise authority over them. But it shall not be so among you. But whoever would be great among you must be your servant, and whoever will be first among you
many times
must be slave,
if not
of all.
always.
That's
plans we draw
Isabel
up
is doing
are not the plans that God
serving us
wants for you
with her
or for
example
our
of
lives.
life, being great.
That's what happened to Isabel.
That's what happened to me. No, I don't have cancer, but life also threw me a curveball. Most likely, I have more than 6 months of life, although nothing is certain. If you listen to the episode of my podcast, episode number 10, you'll hear my story from when I was born until today. I always aspired to higher dreams and goals. One of those dreams was to turn my old company into a major multinational. I was born in July, and according to the zodiac horoscope, my sign is Cancer. There are people who value family a lot. In 23, I divorced from my former partner, stopped living with my daughters, and a month later, I closed my company. I lost the house where I lived, and I can't have anything in my name or I lose it. I live in fear of opening the mailbox because a seizure of court letter could suddenly appear. I live alone, and 3 weeks ago I lost my father. However, I can assure you that I have never felt as peaceful as I do now. To get here, I had to be at the bottom of the black hole, without light, cold, damp, alone with my thoughts. It was during those times that I began to rebuild myself. Not reclaim what I lost because it's no longer worth it, but to become more mature, confident, and a secure human being. God put people in my path who helped me in this process, because there is no self-made man, I believe so. And yes, I will repeat myself, I'm at peace with myself now. If you go to my personal Instagram and Facebook page, you will find many photos of the sunrise. Almost every day I go running. I always see the sun rising on those days. Such a beautiful spectacle that I try to capture with my phone, so that you can feel a tiny part of what it's like to witness this spectacle for free. You can imagine the pleasure I have in watching it from the front row. I have other pleasures in life, like this podcast, or being with my daughters, or watching them playing volleyball or basketball, or opening the door of my house at the end of the day, hearing the birds orchestra early in the morning, talking to more experienced people in life, or meeting Isabel Veloso and her life story, turning pain into gratitude, turning pain into serving others, living life in the present. Yes, I wish my material problem was solved. It will be. I can guarantee you that. It's just a matter of time. I would love for my daughters to live with me, but they are fine, and if they are fine, I'm fine. I would love to have a big company. I will, in the medium-term future. I would love to be able to pay all the people my company owes. It will be done in a due time. I would love for my father to be alive. He's not, and he won't be back, but I will continue to use his smile and kindness towards others. I found peace within myself. I found this love for life within myself. Just like Isabel Veloso, this podcast is also a celebration of life that renews itself every week so that all of us, including me, can be even happier. Just like Isabel Veloso, it's through transformation pain into joy that I plan to live the rest of my life. There's no need to search for the Holy Grail because it lives within me.